Hey guys, and welcome to my channel, Time is But a Window. Now recently Valve released a video called Let Updates Do the Talking. Now I had made reference to this in an Overwatch video, but I didn't really go into detail talking about it, so today we're going to be talking about this video, and Valve's entire methodology.
Dive in, let's go over what CSGO is today. CSGO is a game with over 20 million monthly players. One of the primary goals of our service is retention, keeping players happy by providing them with meaningful updates to their experience.
Look at those high-res chickens.
Over its 9 years, CSGO has constantly evolved as a product, and we've learned a lot about our community.
Yes, they have learned a lot about the community, mainly that they can add skins, yet have cheaters completely dominate this game and still make a profit.
But the main way we communicate has remained the same. It is through updates to the game. What we'll cover today is why updates are our main communication tool over other methods, and we'll walk through a practical example from CSGO's launch. And briefly, we'll go over some other methods and types of communication we use, like our blog and Steam events. We think CSGO is better when we get clear, unfiltered customer feedback.
Clear, unfiltered customer feedback, you say? Well, I don't know about them, but as far as I can tell, what pretty much every other post about here is back. People just experiencing game after game after game of cheater. If you're listening to feedback, why are these being ignored? Now, recently Valve made a Twitter post that said they had fixed trust factor. So my buddy Flawed and I decided to do a live stream to see how much better the trust factor was. Here is what we found. Like, nothing seems suspicious. Okay, I found a cheater.
Or down low.
Alright, to face it, because the truth is, no matter how much they fix trust factor or overwork the Overwatch system, there are just too many cheaters for those systems. What they really need to do is do a major overhaul on how VAC works. CSGO in its current state is completely overrun by cheaters. In fact, CSGO probably has a higher percentage of cheaters than any other game out there. And this is probably why Valve is really so hesitant to talk about it or address it. Because even though there are skin changers out there, cheaters will buy skins too. Especially closet cheaters who want to look legitimate. But not only will they buy skins, if their account gets banned, they'll buy new skins for the new account that they make. So it really makes you wonder, when they say they listen to the community, which community are they listening to? For example, let's take a look at the newest update. Now, it's no surprise that the operation came to an end. They said it was going to be coming to an end at the end of last month. It was 3 days late, that's not a big deal. Now, it looks like they're going to be keeping the stats system, Premier Competitive, and retakes mode. These were several things players loved from the operation. But let's be honest, before Premier Mode went free to play, it was the $15 paywall that kept cheaters out. Towards the end of the operation, they decided to make this free. Of course, this is going to boost the numbers, but that's because cheaters started to play in it as well. Now, before it went free to play, I was saying that this was one of the greatest features they had brought to the game. Having a Premier Mode kind of gives you a super competitive mode. You also have to go through the whole pick ban system, which makes it feel even more like an official match or major. But the greatest part of all is because of that paywall, you were playing against mostly legitimate players, which made it an actual fair competitive environment, something like Face It or ESEA. I even previously talked about how when the operation was over, they should add this as an official game mode, making people pay a monthly subscription for it. So I was surprised to find that they did end up adding that monthly subscription, but only for the stats, and kept Premier Mode completely free. The problem is, since there are so many people playing Counter-Strike Global Offensive that are cheating and won't be willing to put up that money, Valve saw that the numbers were a little bit lower than they expected. So what did Valve do? Well, they decided to open it up to everyone by making it free to play. Now, this did boost the numbers, but as expected, cheaters ran rampant, and players like myself were forced to go back to third-party websites like Faceit and ESEA. Now, aside from that, the update really looked towards future-proofing. They removed Train for now, but they'll probably reintroduce it later with a new version of the map. And they added high-res chicken models. Now, as minor as this seems, it's actually a pretty major update. And no, I'm not memeing. What this really signifies is that there is no new version of Counter-Strike in production. If they're going to take the time to completely re-overhaul and up-res the chickens, then they are planning to keep CSGO on the Source engine for a long time. These updated chickens match the current cartoonier models of CSGO, which I feel is kind of a shame because I kind of liked how CS Source and 1.6 were trying to go for photorealism of the time. Obviously, going for photorealism is going to be a lot more resource intensive though. And cartoony violence is far more acceptable amongst younger audiences. Alright, so we'll revisit this in the future, but let's go back to the video.
Analyze this feedback our customers post on various online communities.
Like the cheating community.
But as they know, we rarely participate in those conversations. When we participate, they stop talking to each other and they start talking to us, and the feedback becomes less clear.
Yes, less clear. I remember back in 2017 when they made a post on Reddit. They asked what you wanted to see in the future of Counter-Strike. The number one response was to fix VAC and get rid of cheaters. The number two response was to make the game on the Source 2 engine. And the third and fourth popular responses were to make the game look better and make the game easier to run on PCs.
The community's interests change over time as well. If we promised a feature or solution to a problem, we'd constrain what the team could ship and be less responsive to when our priorities or the community's priorities change. In those cases, if we broke our promise or shipped a different solution, even if it took us longer than expected, we would start to erode the trust and possibly lose the opportunity to provide customers with more value. Also, when we make these promises about the future, customers start thinking about the game's future and not how it is now. It's easy to imagine how you might communicate about your product when things are going well, but with any games as a service, you have to plan for some challenging times, and CSGO is no exception. So we tend to think about the communication strategies we would use during those challenging times. In those times, we don't think we could make customers happy just by talking to them. We'd have to ship them updates and fix the issues. By keeping customer feedback clear and avoiding the pitfall of promises, we're in a better position to be more flexible and to make the best decisions for the long term.
What they're really saying is because they don't really communicate with their audience, they don't have to worry about being held accountable. They're trying to avoid having a moment like this one from BlizzCon.
Oh, BlizzCon! BlizzCon! We love Diablo.
Notice how everyone in the chat on the right-hand side is either talking about how they're excited for a possible announcement of Diablo 2 Remake or Diablo 4.
World together to slay demons. Our modern world is an increasingly connected one. Our mobile devices keep us closer than ever to our friends, family, and loved ones. So we knew we want to use mobile devices as the platform for a new Diablo game. We are going to have... Sorry.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
No, it's a fully fledged Diablo experience on mobile, which everybody will get to play.
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
Now, as you can see, this is the problem with a developer being really disconnected with their audience. This is what happens when Blizzard decided to do the exact same thing that Valve is saying that they're doing with us. After this entire catastrophe for Blizzard, you know what they did? The next BlizzCon, they showed off Diablo 4 and Diablo 2 Remastered. Because it's moments like this that keep them accountable. Meanwhile, Valve's strategy allows them to have no accountability.
If we broke our promise or shipped a different solution, even if it took us longer than expected, we would start to erode the trust and possibly lose the opportunity to provide customers with more value.
What Valve doesn't seem to realize is the current system they use erodes trust. It truly feels like they don't care about their player base at all. All they care about is their bottom line. Higher numbers, regardless of cheaters, mean that more people are going to buy skins, which means they're going to make more profit. And it doesn't help that you catch them blatantly lying in videos like this.
In those times, we don't think we could make customers happy just by talking to them. We'd have to ship them updates and fix the issues. By keeping customer feedback clear and avoiding the pitfall of promises, we're in a better position to be more flexible and to make the best decisions for the long term of the product.
And that's exactly the problem. Making the best decisions for the long term of the product, not the player. Or as he refers to him in this video, the customer.
How do we prioritize? Well, we start by reading a wide range of community feedback. It is important that the devs are reading this as it directly feeds into what they'll work on. That feedback is great at pointing out pain points in the game experience. But when it comes to finding solutions or even the underlying problems to those pain points, analyzing player behavior is our most useful tool. We collect data on a wide range of player behaviors, including time spent in different game modes, weapon usage, and connectivity.
What I think is hilarious is how they don't realize how flawed this system of getting data is. And all they have to do is look at the comments of this video to understand why. Please, Valve, fix VAC. I bet 99% of CSGO players just want you guys to update VAC. So as they said, most of the data they get is not from asking players, but from analyzing analytics. But when the majority of your player base is playing like the guy on the screen in front of you, your freaking analytics are not going to be reliable. This is why it always looks like updates cater towards cheaters, because there's so many people cheating in CSGO that their analytics are skewed towards cheater playstyles. Honestly, this has been the case with Valve ever since Gooseman left. For those of you who have no idea who Gooseman is, he's the original creator of Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source. He left before the development of CSGO though. Now when he left, it was a big switch for Valve because instead of using his vision, they started using analytics to tweak Counter-Strike and how it should be played. Because of this, CSGO almost died immediately after it came out.
When we launched the game, we had already started planning for future updates, which we predicted would line up with our customers' expectations. We had plans for esports and map workshop, item customization, and other gameplay features. But we followed our communication strategy and we didn't talk about these publicly because we wanted the flexibility to react to our customers' feedback and data. Many games, when they launch, face unexpected problems, and it's important to be agile during that time. When we launched, our unexpected problem was a critical one: players not sticking around. We had attracted new players, but we weren't retaining them.
Alright guys, so as a pro Counter-Strike Source player coming over to CSGO, let me talk about the old days of CSGO and why the numbers dwindled so badly. First and foremost, CSGO was created to be a console game. It was created for crossplay. Because of this, the movement was really skewed. First of all, the movement was a lot faster than it was in Counter-Strike 1.6 and Counter-Strike Source. So old school players really hated this. But not only was it really fast, it was also really slidey. And they did this on purpose so that PC players wouldn't have an advantage over console players. Now luckily, while the movement speed is still ridiculously fast in CSGO compared to prior versions of Counter-Strike, they did reduce the slidiness eventually. Though I'm not gonna lie, I wake up every day hoping for a massive update that reverts all of the movement back to how it was in Counter-Strike Source in 1.6. Come on Valve, Counter-Strike Source Remaster! Also, mouse input was incredibly buggy at the time and still is. Why they decide to run the post-processing effects before the mouse input gets processed, I will never know. If you've ever taken a really fast flick shot and seen the bullet come out farther over to the direction you flicked than you expected, that's why. Basically, it delays what you're seeing from what's actually happening on screen. Now, of course, no one that actually programmed CSGO had originally played the original version of Counter-Strike. And because they don't really talk to their community, they didn't really understand the feedback they were getting. All they would have had to do at the time is go to ESEA and check out the forums, and they would have found post after post like this from 2012 till 2017. Come on, Valve, it's not too late. You can still do this. Now, luckily for most of you guys probably played after the 2017 movement update. And because of this, you're probably partial to it. While the movement speed is still very fast, it's nowhere near as bad as it was back then. But if Valve didn't update the movement back then, what turned around the game and made it come back into the millions of players?
And this became an urgent concern. If we didn't improve retention quickly, we'd lose the critical mass you need for players to find each other and have good matches. During this time, we had lots of great feedback from the community in relation to gameplay, UI, maps, but we could see with our data that retention, a main goal of ours, was falling. The actions of our customers shifted our priorities for us. And because we hadn't committed to a specific promise of future features, we had the flexibility to act on those new priorities. If we didn't have any players, we would have a hard time helping to grow esports. And there would be no need for a maps workshop and no customers who would want to customize their items. So we decided to prioritize a new matchmaking system that brought players of equal skill together.
Wrong.
And other gameplay feedback during this time, but analyzing and iterating on matchmaking was the main focus. If we did a better job helping them find each other and make better matches for them, they would enjoy playing CSGO more and stick around a lot longer. So we shipped a new matchmaking system about a month after we launched the game. We kept iterating on matchmaking and adding features to it, and it did improve our retention.
Wrong. I love how he cuts off the graph right before another major dip in player count. While there was a slight boost after the addition of matchmaking, the number once again began to die out over the next few months until the release of skins. The truth is, because they rely so much on their analytics and don't talk to their player base, instead of being more on target with their updates, they're actually more clueless. They started looking at those players as wallets instead of people. This is why so many of the updates have changed the game in vast ways that a lot of the old school players hate. For example, changing the economy, which was once already remade to be more methodical, to a now more fast-paced one where you can buy almost every round. Same with guns and balancing. The game was very balanced in its 1.6 and Counter-Strike source days. Movement speed, guns, and mechanics were already very thought out by the time CSGO came around. But because CSGO was made by a team that did not develop 1.6 or Counter-Strike source, they did not understand the reason for the mechanics. Basically just eyeballing what they thought felt good at the time, and then they didn't understand why people didn't want to flock over to it. And instead of communicating with their player base to actually find out and improve the game, they made educated guesses based on analytics that were skewed by having mass amounts of cheaters, only to get lucky with the release of skins and have the game grow into a multi-million player game. Now, eventually they did realize after another 4 years that the movement was so bad they had to do something about it. But had it not been for those skins, this game would have been dead long before that. Now, this video goes on to talk about how they go about informing their player base of updates. For example, that post you get in-game that says the game has been updated to have premiere mode or whatever. It's a pretty good video to get a peek behind the window of how they think at Valve. But it also shows you that they really do not understand the Counter-Strike player base. And until they experience a major catastrophe like Blizzard did, they never will. I mean, look at the dislikes on this video compared to the likes. So at least I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, have a great day. And don't forget to check out the video in the link below.